We took 302 Fox pistons, Windsor rods, and a budget crank, and we used them in this, a 9.5 deck 351 production block that we pulled out of the junkyard. Today, I'm gonna get you guys caught up on what our plans are for it as we're gonna dig it out of our pile here. And let's get into it. So if you're not real sure what I'm talking about by 387 Ford stroker motor, let me get you guys caught up right. So we bought this 351 Windsor from a junkyard out of a Bronco. Brought it to the shop, started ripping it down to see what was inside the engine. Got to the bottom of the engine and noticed that the bearings and the bore were in really good shape. So we decided to pull it outside and hone it out, clean the block up real good. We gathered the factory parts and started to head over to the machine shop. At the machine shop, Dave cleaned the block up real good, installed the cam bearings and decked the block, did a bunch of machining and cleaning to the block. He also installed the factory forged 302 pistons on the 351 Windsor rods. And we purchased a budget-minded cast steel crank, 3.85 stroke, mocked it up in the balancer and balanced the rotating assembly to match the pistons and rods, headed home and put the short block together while we start to build on the aluminum heads. So 387 stroker that we had been building here on the channel with the production block and the extra parts that we had here in the shop kind of got set to the side. We've been racing a lot on the channel and we've been doing other things with other content. We weren't entirely ready to make the transition to this car. Let me explain what I'm talking about. When we started the 387 stroker build, we weren't sure what car we were going to put the engine in. And then come along the SSP Trooper Coupe that we were building here on the channel. So as far as the car that we were going to put the 387 in, we decided to go ahead and keep the black car street car. And I think the black car would be the perfect car for a donor, as it'll be the car that gets the most miles when I drive it on the street and daily drive it. Currently in here right now is the 363 stroker that's supposed to be going in my coupe. It used to be in my white car. It's got a modified B&G turbo kit, and it makes 4-digit number to the crank. It's also, like I said, our street car, full weight, full interior. Thing weighs 3,500 pounds and stock form with me in it. We used to race this a lot here on the channel, but we've decided to go ahead and leave it patina and leave it on the street. And I figured what would be best to push the limits of the 387 and put it in the black car that we talked about in one of the videos earlier in the year, and push the limits of the TKX and continue to pound away at that. So where are we actually at right now currently on the 387 build? Well, I had to steal a couple parts for the 408 stroker that we're racing in the white car, but nonetheless, we still have the head gaskets. They're on the motor here. We didn't end up using those. But what we did steal was the head studs from the 408, which were probably just fine. Remember, this is budget. And this is whatever extra parts we had laying around in the shop. Is this efficient? No. Use lifters, production block. We just honed it. Old school trick flow 170 heads, factory forged fox body stock pistons, as you guys seen earlier in the video. And if you've been following the channel, you know we put the factory forged pistons on the 351 Windsor rods, like you see here in some of our old 351 stock bottom end builds. It looks like this. It's an old factory football rods, as you can see. So what's the next move on the 387? What we're actually doing this week, piston the valve clearance, because we think that the trick flow 170s, even though these are kind of a higher compression aluminum head for this motor setup, considering it's a 387 and it's pretty much a flat top, we seem to think that with the way the trick flow design is, we won't really have to fly cut any of the pistons and spend money or time doing that either. So, you know, with the design of the trick flow, the twisted wedge design, we know that we're going to gain a little bit of compression here in this port. What would be perfect if it was actually like a 70 or 72 cc. Guys, remember, we built this with extra parts we had on the shelf. It's budget, factory rods, cast steel crank, 385 stroke, factory forged pistons that were kind of a PETA to put on the damn rods. What we need to do to finish this build out and to lock the rest of this motor down is we got to get over and check piston and valve to make sure that we're going to clear the piston like we had talked about, which we're going to do this week, and you're going to see in the next video coming up very soon. And we're also, while we're at it, we're going to be checking push rod length to make sure we got the proper push rod for this build so we can start getting it ready for the transition into the black car. So to reiterate on budget, literally we took this old balancer that we had from a 351 and we actually balanced the crankshaft right here on this harmonic balancer. We took an old 351 pan that we had, was like a road race pan. We had to actually notch it for like the stick shift cable, and you can see it's been used quite a few times, and it's got different turbo openings and oil returns or whatever. But it's definitely production. We pulled this out of a old truck. Didn't have, you know, had 200,000 miles on it, and the bore was absolutely perfect. So we just cleaned it up, honed it up, put the, you know, ordered the crank, put the Fox pistons on it. And this is an old engine build that I've been wanting to do for a long time. So I'm going to be excited to get it put in the black car soon, so I can actually shake it down and see how much torque and power. I think the thing's going to make a lot of torque, as 9.5 decks usually do. 351 Windsors basically have big block crank journals, so they usually do make some pretty good torque. Got a couple issues with the black car before we get finished up on the 387. We'll have it ready to go down in here and take the 363 out so we could have it ready for the coupe. So we definitely got some work on the black car before we actually do the engine swap. We have a drivetrain issue that we have to address. As some of you guys have followed me on the channel on Facebook as well know what I'm talking about. There's one thing on the channel I can't stand is having my cars on a jack stand. We fix one thing at a time, because if I pull this engine and try to fix the drivetrain problem, then the car is going to sit there because it's got a lot of time to put it back together. You guys know what I'm talking about. So I mainly just wanted to update you guys today on the 387 build, where we're at. I know I've been talking about it a little bit on the channel. I've been asked a ton, like, when are you going to finish it? When are you going to finish it? Guys, I just haven't had the time. We're ready now to go ahead and start shaking this thing down and at least get the rest of the long block finished and maybe the intake sealed up. That way, all we got to do is go ahead and drop it, fit up the turbo kit and drop it into the black car as soon as the 363 comes out and build around it, because that's kind of where we're at. A couple other things I wanted to bring up on the channel to be looking forward to as far as 9.5 deck 351 builds and stroker stuff. We got another 351 Windsor here that we're going to be building in 393. This isn't my block, but we are going to follow it closely on the channel, as this is an old D4 block from an old truck and a van. So I promised this block to my buddy Dave, who does all the tuning with us. So be looking for that here on the channel. We also, if you guys remember this, we bought this coupe for 1,500 bucks on Facebook. Cousin Paul has decided to build the clapped out coupe here on the channel. As you guys remember, we mentioned this a while back about building it. We just didn't have a whole lot of time to get it done, and we pretty much already know what we're gonna put in this car. As we got a couple sets of pistons here and rods from our old 30 over stock bottom end build. You guys have seen these on the channel. It's about time we go ahead and get these done and finished up and working, as these are forged TRW pistons that barely had any use on them, but we bent a couple rods. So we're gonna take this old 351 apart that we had sitting over here in the corner that we got from the boneyard, and we're gonna build another 9.5 deck here in the motor, just a 30 over budget, super budget clapper coupe, big header, probably a little budget GT40 nitrous build. I don't know. We don't know exactly what we're gonna do with it just yet. I just know that we're gonna go with the 351 stock bottom end 30 over, so it'll be super budget with extra parts that we have in the channel, much like we did here with the 387. Got a lot of stuff coming up on the channel, guys. A lot of builds coming up. Got the Trooper coupe we're going to be spending a lot of time on this winter. Got Clapper coupe coming up. We definitely are going to be switching over to the Terminator X, and maybe even on one of our other builds, or maybe we might even try that adapter that adapts the Terminator X into the harness. That'd be something that would be cool content for the channel. But guys, keep an eye out. We got some videos coming for the 387, as I want to start getting this motor sealed up and ready. Figured I'd update you guys here. So I appreciate everybody for watching. If you guys enjoy the content, leave me a thumbs up, leave me a comment. Check out the join button below. Channel members get exclusive perks to the channel. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you soon in the next video.